this on the podcast, but like we it's like I love Mike. He gave his whole life to the program.
When he's saying all this stuff.
All right, guys, we're back. Episode 6, Thursday night, a little after 8. Had a little technical difficulties. Thanks to Coach Hoyt Buckingham. Got us right again here at the Craft Emporium. It's a little smaller crowd again. The boys are still recouping from a long holiday weekend. I want to certainly thank Top of Ohio Radon, Paul Newland. We want to encourage everyone to give Paul a call, 937-935-2806. Paul will come out, check your radon levels, give you the peace of mind that you're good, or if not, he will show you the path to take care of that. Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer, so make sure you don't have that in your home. I did it, and I'm glad that I did. Definitely want to thank Craft Emporium. So brought in a new guest tonight, someone that I had never met till a minute ago, West Liberty-Salem's head wrestling coach, Andy Hartshorn. I'm sorry, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Glad to meet you. Glad to have you on. This is your third year as the head coach?
This is my 5th year.
This is your fifth year as the head coach.
Moved to West Liberty, moved to St. Paris in 2020, and then for that 2020-2021 season, I believe was my first, so 2020-21. Yeah, this would be my 5th year. This is my 5th season.
I want to talk about you, and then eventually, obviously, I want to talk about your team. But, you are from out of the area, which I don't know, it feels like sometimes in Logan County, Champaign County, West Liberty-Salem, we don't get a lot of outsiders where a lot of the people are here for life. So I've done some research, some creeping, like I said. I had to get to know you a little bit through the Google.com. You're from Reynoldsburg.
Mm-hmm.
That's a school that, I feel like I know a lot about a lot of schools. I feel like it's a school that, because it's on the east side of Columbus, I don't feel like we ever really saw them. Can you just tell me a little bit about kind of how you got into wrestling, a little bit about that Reynoldsburg program when you were coming through?
Sure. So if you look at, 270 as a clock, this is what I always tell people in Columbus, like it's a clock. Reynoldsburg's right at 3. We're right off 70. So, I started wrestling when I was 7. And it was nothing like what youth wrestling is now. I got a daughter in a youth program this year. We never competed. It was like a winter camp almost, where you'd practice once or twice a week. I did that every year until I got to 7th grade was my first year, started competing. And like around that time, like our program was never really known as being that good. We had some... We would always have 1 or 2 really good guys on the team, but as a team, we were kind of a middle-of-the-road team. And then my 8th grade year, I believe it was my 8th grade year, we had a coach, my head coach moved into the area. His name's Jason Allen. So he was a state champ for Kilbourne, wrestled for Oklahoma State after that. We wrestled for Ohio State first and then transferred to Oklahoma State. And he started coaching, I believe it was my 8th grade year, and from there the program just kind of exploded. He's to this day like a family member to me, and just one of the best coaches I've ever had. And so I think, if you look at our wall in our wrestling room, it's, we have all of our state qualifiers, state placers, everything on the wall. They got their own plaque on the wall. And from Jason's, I want to say he was the head coach at Reynoldsburg for 8 or 9 years, and I think we have more state qualifiers, state placers in his 9 years than the rest of the history of the program. So, we got better. I was really blessed to have a full team of incredible teammates and Jason would tell you the same thing, like the real key to our success was we had families that bought in and were part of the program, and they did everything that Jason didn't want to do so that he could just coach, and all of our other coaches too.
I'm curious, going back to your Pee Wee days, because I'm entering that world with my son who's 6 years old, and he is starting this journey as a wrestler. How do you feel looking back? You obviously will get into how accomplished you end up being. Back in those youth days, the not competing, do you feel like that was a good thing or a bad thing?
I never really actually thought about it too much. I would say that because this is we're in the same boat. My daughter's 7. This is her first year doing it. I don't know that I've seen enough of the youth kids that compete to be able to make like an educated assessment, but I I don't think that not competing as 7 and 8 and 9-year-old kid really hurt me. I don't think it would have hurt me to compete either. So I just think, like, what I tell people when I coach my kids, little rec league soccer team or t-ball team or youth wrestling, when the four fundamentals that I talk about, no matter what you're coaching, when you're talking about kids that young, is, you're going to learn the fundamentals of whatever it is you're doing, the rules, the how to do it, the building blocks of whatever. If it's a sport, what makes that sport the sport. You're going to learn how to have good sportsmanship. You're going to learn how to work really, really hard, and you're going to learn how to have a lot of fun while you're working hard. That's what I tell people. Those are my 4 goals for anything under middle school. That's like my 4 goals. The rest is like, we'll take it, take what we can. And I think that whether you're competing or not, I think as long as you're adhering to those 4 things, you're going to be okay.
Have you done the Sunday afternoon tournaments with your daughter?
Oh, yeah.
How do you feel about those?
They are something.
Yeah, they are.
There's something.
That's a good way to put
There's
it.
something.
I have not. I just, in full disclosure, so my son wrestled some last year, and then we didn't compete, and then he's not competing again this year. He's only 6. I don't know what age that I want him to start those Sundays. A friend of mine, Brad Flora, made the comment, and it put words to the thing that was in my head, is I don't want my son to hate wrestling before he loves it. Right. And we all hate wrestling on some level at some point because there's something, but if you love it already, then you can ignore the hate part. And I just... and I think there's a lot of good things that happen on those Sunday afternoons. I was on my hands and knees for 5 years doing it.
Yep.
And what I tried to push for in those days, and Mike Clem, and we'll get to him in a second, but West Liberty, Ben Logan, Bell Fountain, and the Lake, we started our own little club back then where we took away the trips to Dayton or wherever, and we just did us 4. Now, the negative to that is, especially your 5th, 6th graders that are starting to get competitive, especially if they're good, when there's only 4 teams, there's very high likelihood that your best wrestler looks around every week and is like, I don't have anyone to wrestle. So I don't know if there's a perfect answer, but I am glad to hear you say that you didn't compete until you were older. It makes me feel a little better about my decision. But, it's interesting you say that you would have been fine competing too, because it's not like you had good people around you that would have. The competing's not the problem. It's competing in a inappropriate fashion that would be the problem.
And I think, again, like, the competing, I think, like, competing or not competing, I honestly don't think it matters at all, at all. And I think that what really matters at that age is, like, do you have coaches that the kids connect with? Are you creating an environment where they can have fun no matter what they're doing, right? And are you, and this is especially difficult and important when it comes to wrestling, but, like, are you creating an environment and a, participation that they're really proud of, right? Because, like, wrestling, like, it's hard. I mean, it's the hardest thing I've ever done, and it will demand everything you have on a daily basis. Having fun is one thing, but being proud that you're able to go through that, I think, is just what kind of solidifies it, right? So and we have some incredible youth coaches, that they instill this, like, pride. And it's like one of the things you don't see in the city that you see here is, like, people are proud to be from here. They're proud to represent here. They're proud to, go out there and be the hardest working, the toughest kid. They're proud of their success. They're proud of the work that they put in. And I think if you can get there, you create something that is not easily let go of. Because if you're like, well, they're only doing it because you play games every day and it's fun, well, what happens when you stop doing that every day? You got to create something they're proud of, right?
And, obviously, I'm from West Liberty, and I think most people realize that. If anybody's actually listening, they would probably know that. But no doubt that West Liberty club, which I didn't actually wrestle in, I didn't start till the 7th grade, but I'm familiar with a lot of the characters that are involved, and no doubt that there has been years and years of hard work. Mike Clem, who we mentioned earlier, Mike was a wrestler for West Liberty-Salem, and I think graduates in 73, 74, and has really committed his entire life, so the last 50 years, to West Liberty-Salem wrestling. And guys like that you're right, they're incredibly proud of West Liberty-Salem and the wrestling history, which is extremely rich. But fast forward, so you get to high school at Reynoldsburg. You talked about the lack of history. I did notice you were the first finalist, I believe. Is that correct? Like 2006?
Yeah, 2006, my junior year.
So your junior year, you're a state finalist. And you know what? And I overlooked that because now that makes sense, because when I looked at your OU years, I thought, man, he was in college for a while.
Yeah.
But so your senior year.
I got fifth.
Okay. And
So,
I didn't pick up on that. So 2-time state placer, runner-up and fifth in D1.
Yeah.
So real deal, big boy wrestling. What kind of, I'm just curious, so you said your program wasn't like an elite, St. Edward or something. What kind of schedule your coach
in those years, we were top 10 in the state. So,
did your schedule reflect it?
Yeah, my junior year, we were 6th as a team. My senior year, I think we were 11th or 13th, something like that. And so we won districts my junior, senior year, and my freshman year of college. So we were Central District champs.
And your coach beefed up the regular season schedule?
Yeah. So
did you go to any marquee events?
His philosophy was hit all corners of the state. We didn't go to Ironman or Powerade or Beast of the East. So like the big ones we would do, and at that time, so Brecksville was the big one we went to. We did a handful of stuff in Columbus, obviously. Toledo Weight was a big one. We did Medina my freshman year, and then Brecksville started getting
tougher
on par with
Medina,
it, and then now Brecksville's
yeah, no doubt.
And I don't want to say Brecksville's. I haven't really followed it that closely recently, but I think Brecksville's a bit tougher than Medina now. And then I think where else we went, had some duels, like being big schools, like the OCC was it was a dual meet. So you had a bunch of duels that you'd have to wrestle, and
good atmosphere to those.
Yeah. So the district runner-ups were in our OCC. So it was heated. So that was pretty.
What is your stance on dual versus tournaments?
I think if you have a team that can support dual environments, I think that duals are critical to bringing some excitement to your student body. I think they're critical, because you got to get people excited to come watch.
Where'd you stand on the state dual tournament?
We wrestled there my senior year, and I love it. I think it's a little different now. I think
It's done now, right?
Well,
it's done as being sanctioned, maybe.
Right. I think what they do, I think so. And I think what they do is they have almost like the football playoffs where they do regional locations and then they kind of bring them in, but I'm not even sure of that. I haven't, because, frankly, all of my energy is focused on West Liberty. So, we're not there yet, if that even exists. So it's something to, it's not in my 50-meter target area, but I like it because I just think it's different. I think with as grueling as wrestling is, the duels are also a way to challenge yourself, build an environment, but not be wrestling for 14 hours on a Saturday or a Friday, Saturday.
A lot more fan friendly.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier that way.
And maybe you agree or maybe disagree. When I was coaching at Bell Fountain, and Bell Fountain's a school with not a rich wrestling tradition. I mean, there's some good stuff there, and I'm certainly proud of what we have. But I felt like when I was recruiting kids to wrestle, I could sell a duel versus Benjamin Logan versus Indian Lake in a way that made sense to them. Like, hey, I want to go beat Ben Logan. But if I said, hey, do you want to go to the district wrestling tournament in Xenia or Bloomington? They're like, I don't really know anything about that. So I just
spend
felt
an
like
entire 2 days.
2 days, yeah, it was tough. So, you get out of high school. Obviously, you're a 2-time state placer, runner up. Was OU, you end up at Ohio University, was that an easy decision? Were you close to going somewhere else?
There was 2 schools that I considered. So it was there or Binghamton, which is a New York school. And so Pat Popolizio was the head coach at Binghamton, who's now the NC State coach. He was roommates with my high school coach at Oklahoma State. So Pat had brought me out, and that was when it was his first or second, it was early in his time at Binghamton. And I was really close to going there. very, very close, because like I told you before we were on here, like Jason Allen, my coach at high school, was like family to me. And, he was a big part of my decision. And, him and Pat Popolizio, if you look at it, I mean, he is clearly an incredible coach. And, it came down to, like, I was pretty academically thinking, like forward thinking as well. And it was 50-50. I loved OU. I loved Joel Greenlee. Joel's a big guy coach. Like, that was a huge part. I loved Pat. I knew the environment he was going to be part of in my short time, or the environment he was going to create. I liked the location. I liked, the feel of the school. I loved the connection to my high school coach. And it just was like, it was very close. I ended up going with OU because they had the program I wanted for school. And, I really love Joel too. So Joel's incredible, has been an incredible influence in my life as well.
I want to talk about Joel Greenlee. I looked at my phone. I wasn't trying to be rude, but Matt Derlin was the head coach at Binghamton. When you said Binghamton,
that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and I was thinking, like, I know Derlin was the head coach there for a minute. I don't know how many years, but I Googled to make sure I didn't say something wrong. But yeah, small world that the school you come to had a guy that was the head coach there. Mm-hmm. So Joel Greenlee, OU, which, a lot of people don't know who that is just because they don't know who the head coach is at Ohio University. Big man, big time stud, like national, like U.S. Olympic team, didn't make it, but was like a runner up for the Olympics.
Two-time NCAA All-American.
Yep.
He got fourth and second. Interestingly, though, so like when he got second, those were the Carlton Hasselrig years. So for those who don't know who Carlton Hasselrig was, he passed away a few years ago, I think. He's the only 6-time NCAA champ in history because he wrestled for UPJ, Pitt Johnstown. Back then, the D2, that was a D2 school, is a D2 school. In that era, the Division II and Division III NCAA champs were invited to wrestle at the Division I championships. So he won 3 Division II championships and 3 Division I championships in the same year.
I've never heard that. That's
yeah,
awesome.
so that was, and he beat Joel in the finals. And then when Joel, in the 88 trials, he lost to Bruce Baumgartner by a point in the Olympic trials.
No shame
finals.
in that.
No. He was, I mean, that is the scariest specimen of a human I've ever met in my entire life.
Bruce Baumgartner?
Joel Greenlee. Joel Greenlee.
Is still the head coach, right?
Yeah.
Has been there since probably the mid-'90s, late '90s, somewhere in there, 20-some years.
99, he was the associate head coach for Harry Huska.
Another big name.
Yeah.
He's still a pretty young guy when you're there, younger. Get out there and wrestle with you all the time?
I don't know if I'd call it wrestling as much as beating the life out of me. I'm serious. I'm serious. Like, I tell my kids at West Liberty, I was like, there's levels to this game and you're not there yet. And the same was true of me with Joel. The same was true. For real. I can't even, I wish I could put that human into words and I can't. Freak of nature good. And he wrestled with us all the time. I wrestled with him multiple times every week.
And I don't have any stats to back this up, but I just can't believe that there's that many D1 coaches that are heavyweights. Like, it feels like that's somewhat rare. It feels like the lighter guy. So for now, obviously everyone brings in a big guy, but that does to me have to be different. Like, to have your head coach, the dude that's the dude, as relates to you and knows that your sport obviously is different than the 25 pounders. It's not quite the same, but so you get into the lineup at OU. You're varsity the starter for several seasons.
Redshirted my freshman year. I started the next 2 years, and then the following 2 years, Jeremy Johnson comes in, and I love Jeremy. Jeremy's one of my seriously. I'm not going to lie to you. In the moment, I was a frustrated college student. I was a pretty angry college student, but Jeremy is genuinely one of those people that I would consider myself really honored to know him. So Jeremy beat me out my junior and senior year. I want to say every time we wrestled off, it was a 1-point match.
How long does he let that go on, the wrestle off? Like, I'm saying, how many cracks do you get at him?
You get a couple a year. Yeah, it was not.
So even he's an All-American, or is that later that he's an All-American?
No, he he All-American. He All-American twice. I want to say his first year All-Americaning was my senior year. So, and that, yes, we wrestled off that year. Knowing Joel and knowing my relationship with him and his relationship with Jeremy, and this is admittedly putting words into his mouth, so to speak. But I to answer the question, I think you were asking, had he been a returning All-American, would I have gotten a chance to wrestle?
That is what I was asking.
Yes, I believe Joel, because I just know that's how Joel is. It's funny enough, this relates to playing duck hunter on traveling trips, but he used to always tell me, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And I'll spare you the whole story, but he used to say that all the time to me. So it doesn't matter who you are last year, you are still expected to come in and perform. And if you're outperformed and you wrestle off and you lose a wrestle off, you've lost that spot, it's on you to earn it back. Joel is a personal accountability human. That's what is a hallmark of him from, not that he doesn't preach that, but if you know him, you know that. So it's if you lose your spot, that's your spot, So I don't think that had Jeremy been a returning All-American when I got there, I don't think he would have forbidden me to wrestle him all. He wouldn't have been I don't think that's who he would have been. And honestly, that's not who Jeremy would be. He'd be like, no, I'm still wrestling off. So, cause Jeremy's the hardest worker I've ever known. And, but yeah, so that's what happened.
No, I don't feel like just knowing a lot of the area high school coaches, we don't get, the one thing that I think that has hurt wrestling at times is we don't always have high quality coaches. We don't have, I don't know why that is. I feel like I coach football and wrestling, and I feel like most of the head football coaches that I've ever interacted with, for the most part, I'd say that guy is qualified. He belongs in that role. And I feel like wrestling at times struggles to just find quality individuals. And there's always going to be schools, especially the smaller schools, that don't have the history. We're they hired this guy and God bless him, he's trying, but he's not a two-time state placer. He's not a varsity wrestler at OU. So, I really feel like the fact that West Liberty-Salem is able to have a head coach, and obviously I'm from West Liberty-Salem and we've had good wrestling people. We've never had anyone with your credentials. I say they have never had anyone with your credentials, walk through the door. So I know we're hitting fast forward quite a bit because you want to talk about your team, but so what does end up bringing you? So there's some years there and then you end up at West Liberty.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this, but just to address kind of what you're saying, I appreciate that, and that's but I will say in our area, there's a lot of great coaches, and honestly, the jury's still out on if I'm a great coach. I don't think being great at the sport is necessarily. It definitely helps, but or having a great resume or having being challenged at the top level and working hard and working in these high level tournaments and wrestling in college, they certainly make you a better coach because they expose you to more opportunities, gives you more exposure, which gives you more wisdom, knowledge that you can pass on, right? But that doesn't mean that you are going to successfully pass it on.
Doesn't
right?
help you connect to kids.
It
always.
Sure doesn't.
You got to do that on your own a little bit.
It sure doesn't. And the area. If you look in this area, Cameron Doggett's coaching at Mechanicsburg.
That's a good one.
And he's got a way better resume than I do. Graham is going to be Graham. Rich Randall at Miami East is an incredible coach, incredible person. Mark Matt down in Greenview, which is kind of far from us, but that's in the OHC. He's a great coach too. We've got some great coaches in this area with really great resumes. And I've learned a lot from them. I've learned a lot from my assistant coaches. I've learned a ton, and we'll talk about this probably in the next part of but learning how to coach at West Liberty is different from learning how to coach where I came from, and having the connection with Mike Cooper and Ben Griffith to coach with me over these last 4 or 5 years has been essential into us building we're getting as far as we've gotten, because you can't come into these areas and say you're going to do what I you're going to do, I come from this, you come from this, we're going to do it my way.
They only care about your credentials so long. They might listen at first and then
For sure.
You don't follow it up with other stuff.
Right. So I just want to say this area is rich with in Division I, when I wrestled in high school, we talked about the Menor Meat Grinder, that Northeast Ohio district Well, that Troy district here is kind of that same thing for Division
You just
III.
got a little tougher this year.
Yeah, no kidding, no kidding. But
Wow.
it's welcome challenge, but it is a big challenge. So, but yeah. So as far as you said, what brought
How
me
you
to
got
West
here,
Liberty?
yeah.
Well, that would be my lovely wife Erica. So she, I met my wife Erica Blaker, formerly Blaker. We were students together at OU. We knew each other. We met each other through mutual friends, through campus ministry. Ended up dating in my 5th year, which I had a redshirt year. So I was in my 5th year. I did a half year to get through the wrestling season my senior year, 5th year. And then left after the winter. It was quarters at the time, and we kept dating and got to the point where I joined the Army, and it was like, hey, we're either getting married or we're breaking up or whatever, and we ended up getting married. And she's from West Liberty, so we, through the dating and through the years, it was. I knew she always wanted to be back here, and quite frankly, like my temperament is not necessarily best suited for Columbus and city life, and I really wanted to be out here in the country and out here in Champaign County, Logan County, this area, and it was kind of a dream of ours. Like, we lived in Germany for a few years, and when we came back, we moved to Reynoldsburg because that was what was available at the time. That was what made sense, and that was where our work was. And but we always had the goal to get back up here, or to get up here for me, get back up here for her, and so that's what brought me to the area.
So then, the West Liberty job comes open, so Dave Clem was the coach before
Yes.
you. So Dave steps down, the job opens up, you step in. It's crazy that you're in your 5th year. I feel like I should know that. I didn't realize that. So you've been around for a while. Let's get into your team this year. So I have been impressed. I probably, in fairness, haven't followed it super close over the last few years until this year.
Yeah.
Started this garage sports venture, which by nature kind of caused me to say, okay, I need to know a little bit about everything. And now I'm looking at results, waiting for you to email. And I appreciate, West Liberty Wrestling is actually one of the best. What I realize is I've got these 5 winter sports and got 6 different schools, so 30 different people I work with. Some don't update their stuff for a week or so, and I get a little frustrated. And people like you and Ben Griffith send me your stuff and make my life easier because I put up these little honor rolls, which for whatever that's worth. I mean, it's just that's my way of when I was a kid. Newspapers were a lot bigger deal, and a wrestling honor roll that would run in the paper. As a young wrestler, when I was coming up, I was like, if I get my name in there and I had a winning record, as a freshman or sophomore, that was big for me and it motivated me. So I hope in some small way that kids, look at that and that's kind of a big deal, especially a sport like wrestling just doesn't get a ton of media attention.
Yep.
But I've been impressed with your team just on paper. I'm reading. I'm like, okay, this kid's young. This kid's this is a freshman. This is a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe just start at the top. I mean, I guess in wrestling, I always want to start at the beginning weights, which I'm still struggling a little bit with that. When I was the head coach, they were different.
Yeah.
Things are changing fast. So 106. You don't feel no. Wyatt Shoemaker, freshman.
Yep.
So you fill that with a freshman, first year starter. He's got a winning record right now.
Yep.
So you guys have not competed quite as much as some of the other schools.
Well, we've had a couple duels that it's every time we schedule dual meets, they're canceled for weather. So I mean, and then we're in the process of now cramming in all these reschedules at the end. But we'll have a full depending on if we can reschedule the last 2 duels, we'll have a full 20 points. It just we wrestle at LCC, Lima Central Catholic here coming up. But yeah, so yes, I don't know if this helps or not. I hope it doesn't derail how you want to go through it procedurally here. But we have every weight except for 150 and heavyweight. So and we have 12 boys on the team, and they have lined up into their weights pretty well. There's one kid that our 44 Derek Wall, who's a freshman. He is not a 44
Right.
pounder, but
Wrestling up.
he's weighing about 39. He's probably a natural 38
Ain't a bad
pounder.
place to be as a
It's
freshman.
not terrible.
He's
you
the
know.
guy that gets to eat.
He's that's true too. So we of our 12 guys, we got 1 junior, 5 sophomores, 6 freshmen. So it's the biggest. So my first year, this is my 5th year, like you said. My first year, we had 4 kids on the team. So we had 4 kids on the team.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, we had 4. I think we had 4, 6. I want to say 10. I think it was 4, 6, 10, and 12. And we had a couple people drop out that we thought, I can't get a heavyweight to save my life. I think they see me and they're like, I'm going to have to wrestle him every day. I don't want to do it. And it's like, but we can't get a heavyweight we're pretty close. We're on the brink of getting that
You
full
got a
lineup.
heavyweight walking your schools whose dad was a state champion.
Yeah,
That'd
I'm
have been
aware.
nice. Yeah,
I'm aware.
That would have
I've
been nice.
I've reached out to him. I just don't think it was for him.
Yeah,
so-
and that's the tough part.
He's the type of kid you could just turn good in day one. You could turn him into.
I would always tell those heavyweight guys when I was recruiting them, look, if they were a good offensive lineman for us, I would say, as a good athlete, you'll be above 500 from day one. Just, because there is some bad high school heavyweight. Now, the good kids are really good, and the bad kids are really
Yes.
bad. So, you'd hope to be able to sell them on that. But, yeah, however you want to go through the lineup, I guess in my mind, you start at that. It's 106 now.
106. We got Wyatt Shoemaker.
He's been through the club. I mean, that's a guy that's
His dad is one of those incredible youth coaches that I'm talking about.
Mason Shoemaker is a loyal reader of Garage Sports. I really appreciate.
Yes.
He's definitely been in that club. He was one of those guys I was talking about that he wrestled for West Liberty-Salem. Very proud of his Tiger tradition.
Him and Mike Cooper were running the middle school program the last 2 years. Mason has went back down. He's kind of just focusing on youth this year. And
So you have another boy coming.
Gabe's a 6th grader. I'm hoping he's going to be our heavyweight here in a couple of years. I'm praying
Gotta
for
feed
it.
him.
Yeah, he might be bigger than Wyatt. He might be. I don't know though. But yeah. So Mason is one of those guys that he's a culture guy. He's a hard work, hard nose, on the grindstone culture guy, and he's one of those big people that force discipline, hard work, pride in your community, and go represent.
He was
That's
that way
him.
as an athlete.
Yeah.
He's on that football team that West Liberty. West Liberty was very
Yep.
mediocre in football for many years, and the 2004 team goes to the playoffs for the first time, and Mason's the starting defensive end for them. And he was not, like an incredibly talented guy as far as athletic. I mean, he wasn't. He wasn't. He got by on grit and toughness and cared. And I think very highly of Mason. So I know as a former coach that having guys like that, you really can't be successful if you don't find those kind of guys.
He's a coach's coach.
Zayden Schaefer, I feel like, is your next one.
Yep,
He's
113.
13.
Yep.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I wonder who his dad is, just as an old West Liberty guy. I wonder.
His dad lives in Troy.
I gotcha.
I've not met him in person.
I wrestled with some Schaefer, so I was just wondering. We had a Carl Schaefer, who would have been a stud. He placed at the districts as a freshman at 103 in those days and never wrestled after that.
Yeah.
West Liberty had a history of those kind of guys where we always struggle with numbers just like you. And we'd be like, man, we got 10 guys, but if we had 14, we could really do something.
yeah.
And when, obviously the history of the program, when it was super successful, it wasn't so much a team as a few individuals. Now, maybe Andy's told you this, Andy McGill you spoke to, maybe that was off the air, but, when we were in high school, we did qualify for the state duels. That was in the days where they took the top 2 district teams
Yes.
with returning
There was a formula
yeah, it was a
for
formula.
it. Yeah.
And we made it my senior year because we had 4 state qualifiers and then we had 6 district placers, I want to say. And so we did have a semblance in the late 90s, and then Andy was a year ahead of me, where we were 8 to 11 deep, but even that, and we were a lot of high-end district kids. We weren't Durnlands. I mean, Andy was the closest thing we had to a Durnland. He was a 2-time state placer, which is pretty dang good. But a lot of us were just state qualifier types, and that was good. I mean, we'll take that.
There's no just about being a state qualifier in the state of Ohio. That's
until you're a
feat.
state runner-up. But certainly a lot of history there with the program. Your next weight class 20. Are you feeling 20?
120 is Madden Kilgore.
And he is a freshman.
He's a sophomore this year. Yeah,
he's kind of burst onto the scene.
Yeah, he's a guy that last year. So Madden is one of the guys that probably loves and cares about wrestling as much, or if not more, than anybody else on the team. That's all he does. He just wrestles. He grew up wrestling in the Shore Club.
We have a few of those guys.
Yeah, we have a few. Yeah,
I like a few, but I like some football guys, but a few just wrestling.
Yeah, so he grew up wrestling in the Shore Club, and he's wrestled with all those Shore kids, and with Rich Randall and George Shore and all those guys. So he's truly given his life to it. A lot of the technique, a lot of last year, his freshman year, was finding the techniques, because he had he wrestled a style until I got here that's very different from mine, very different from my philosophy. So it took us about half to 3/4 of the year last year, his freshman year, to find the formula for him, and I think he went into sectionals with a 500 record and wrestled through and got to the match to go to districts and upset a kid that he wasn't supposed to beat, and beat a kid that was supposed to. I mean, I think he's a Preble Shawnee kid or something, and just I think he teched him and just wasn't supposed to beat the kid on paper, and got to districts. And then I think this year's starting early. He's had some injury stuff going on, which you'll have, but he's had really strong performances this year, and he's getting really, really good and really perfecting things here and there, and he's a process kid. He'll embrace the process.
Those guys that are doing that legit off-season stuff, they tend to pop. Like right. You said, he upset a guy. That's where I've been around a lot of good wrestlers, and this moment's not that big for me going to the district tournament. That's what I like to see. Do you have a lot of those kind of guys that are doing that? Whether it's now, Jordan's is still a thing, right?
Yeah, I think we had 5 or 6 guys. There was a couple of guys that. So my coach in high school, from the start, we were a neutral position guy. We were a neutral position team, so we were going to be the best at takedowns on the mat, right? And so I try to do a little bit more toward, and Joel at OU was very across the board. It was as you'd expect in a there was practices dedicated to top bottom stuff. There was practices over. So
they say in Ohio we're not very good on top. That's always been the thing.
That's what they say. Joel's from Iowa though.
There you go.
But it's so I've always put way more focus on our feet. Guilty as charged. I will tell anybody that, and so we have some guys that are pretty good on top bottom but need a lot of work, and so I think I recommended a couple of our guys that, hey, go to that top bottom camp at Jordan's. It's down the road, a couple $100, and it's 4 or 5 days, 3-4 days, something like that. And I was so we had some guys go to that. We've got a couple of kids every year. It seems like they go to the Iowa camp, which I think it's just kind of not just. I mean, that's a great camp, but it's become this tradition for them, and so we've got that, and then we've got Rich does the Randall at Miami East does that Blackfoot camp, and Madden loves going to that, and so we last year we had 4 or 5 kids doing summer work.
Have you gotten to know Jeff Jordan at all?
I've never really talked to him, to be honest.
Not that it matters. I'm a huge Jeff Jordan fan. When I was the head coach at Bell Fountain, Jeff is he's an icon. I mean, it is hard. The first time I met Jeff, I was a little. Now I knew Jeff. When I was in school, I would go over there. That was kind of the early days of the Jordan stuff. And Dave Clem, we talked about him. He was a big Jordan's guy. But I would go over to their open mats back when you throw a couple of dollars in a coffee can. Jeff was just figuring out how to make an empire out of it. He wasn't there yet. But as a coach, when I got to coach with him, man, he controls a room. And I'm a huge fan, though. Like, people would hate on Graham back in those days, and they were, that was their heyday when I was the head coach, like national champ type stuff.
Yeah.
And Jeff was such a good dude, and he was so down to earth. And he, I was an absolute nobody wrestling coach from Bell Fountain, but he treated me with the utmost respect. And he would send his B team to our Jimmy Mack duels, and I was actually really proud of that because that was at a time where he had a moment where he had a really good B team. It didn't last very long because I don't think they have much of that anymore. But they had a moment there where they had like 20 some dudes. And you would have a dude from their B team that was absolutely a state placer, but he just couldn't crack the line, especially at the lightweights. But not that matters. But I'm a huge Jeff Jordan fan. I think it makes me sad that he's no longer the head coach, but obviously he's still doing his deal there with the camps.
Yeah, we've got I want to say like 4 or 5 guys that pretty regularly will go to Jordan's open mats on Sundays. And I don't want to tell you. I live very close to Graham High School. Yeah,
there you go.
I live very close to Graham High School, but I've got a lot of enemies out there that come after me if they knew where I live. So.
And I may mess up the weight classes because
no, you're good.
I think it's 32 next, right?
26 is next.
Oh, okay.
So
we
20 is
26.
Madden. 26 is Lucas Merriman,
Okay.
and he's our only junior. He's our oldest kid. He's had some tournaments where he wasn't wrestling at this year, but He won OHCs last year. He's tough. His brother was a tough wrestler, graduated last year.
Maybe like a district kind of guy that won some match at districts.
Slade was his older brother. Is his older brother. Slade was, I want to say last year he was wrestling 44. I think he was 2 matches away from state.
Like a 2-2 district guy.
He lost. I think he was 3-2 last year. I could be wrong on the number, but he lost to the guy that got 4th, and he was beating him until the 3rd period, and it was kind of like how they lined up. But it was a kid from Madeira, and Thiel, I think, is who he wrestled, and so those two, they were whoever won that match was going to go get 3rd or 4th. The kid that they got lined up with, 100%, and Thiel ended up beating him bad, and I think Slade would have beaten him bad. Right, and that's not a discredit to the young man. I watched the matches. I truly believe, had Slade beaten the kid from Madeira, I don't know how you say it.
It's Madeira.
Yeah, Madeira. He would have been at the state tournament for 100%. I'd bet my left arm on it. So he's very tough. Slade's one of those kids where and I've told him this is not he's one of the most naturally gifted athletes I've ever seen. Freak of nature athlete. It was just the execution, the application, the discipline, as it slowly got better and better and better as he got older. And I really love having him around, and he'll come up and kind of roll with us a little bit in the room. And we need him up there. He helps out a lot, and but yeah, so that runs in their family. Slade was a good wrestler. Lucas is a good wrestler. Just he's in a position now where he's got every tool to be a state qualifier. He just gotta figure a couple little things out.
Their dad Seth is one of those guys that's been involved with the Pee Wees for
Seth's
quite a long time
guy.
now. 38.
32.
I know. I'm
yeah.
moving ahead to 38.
Yeah, so 38 is Kyler Langhart.
Another name that I didn't know until this Garage Sports stuff.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about him.
2nd-year wrestler. Pulled him in off the soccer fields. He's friends with Madden Kilgore, our 20-pounder.
Yeah, you got to get a buddy in. Yes.
Yep. And so he pulled him in, and we call him the rubber band man because he doesn't operate like a normal human being. His body does not react like a normal person's body. And he had a really rough start to the beginning of the year last year. As he's a freshman that started wrestling as a freshman.
Yeah.
That's what we
baptism by fire.
Yeah, we don't wrestle an easy schedule. So I do my best to give us the hardest schedule that I think we can handle at this point, And I preach all the time, sectionals, district, states, the rest will take care of itself. That's what I learned. That's how I was coached. And so he started performing on as the year got on. We got, towards the end of the year, I think he was 0-9 at one point and finished the year 8-13. So he came on strong, really strong, and he is the type of kid, I tell you, a year ago, he's not the same human being as he is today. Like, he was kind of like, hey, don't you want to apply your, like, work hard here? He's like, I don't care. So, like, whatever. Like, I'll do what you tell me to do. He's always coachable. He'll always do what you tell him to do, but, like, never really put much emotion or, like, feeling behind it. And then towards the end of the year, he started responding to the amount of work, and he started loving it. And, you know, he put in a bunch of work, went to a bunch of open mats, camps, the whole deal over the summer, and came in really, like, I mean, shocked a lot of people. Not me, but he shocked a lot. Yeah, he shocked a lot of people.
I don't know his record offhand, but it's a bunch of wins and not very many losses.
Yeah, he's had a great year so far, and he at Miami Valley GMVWA, we go down there. He was a match away from making day 2. He got beat in stupid fashion in his first match, wrestled 3 matches forward, got to the match to make it to day 2 and lost. I think that was a good challenge for him. I'm really excited to see him at Lima because that's like all D3 schools and really good schools.
District preview.
Yeah, and so like I'm really excited to see him go there and really challenge himself and So
he's 38, still 45, right? That has
44.
44.
That's Derek Wall. That's the freshman I told you who's maybe a little bit undersized.
So he's just
definitely undersized.
Getting his feet under him.
Yes.
You know, I remember when I first started wrestling, I was lucky to have some dads. Ben Griffith's dad, Bob Griffith,
Yes.
Robert Griff. You know,
He has many names.
yes, Griff to me, but you know, on his birth certificate, Robert Griffith. You know, he was one of certainly a father type figure to me. And I remember when I was struggling, and he would tell me, like, I remember he said, you know, wrestling is one of those things you just have to go through this. Like, I remember this as a 7th grader. Like, you can't fast forward through it. Like, you're just going to have to learn this. And we can't help you. And certainly if you're a better athlete, it's faster. Sure. But if you're an average athlete like I was, it's like, all right, you're going to have this path that you're going to be on for a while. And we can't save you from it. But if you stick it out, like the fella from soccer, Langhart, you know, on the other end of this, especially if you said he's kind of funky, he's kind of, you know, and that's always a nice niche. I never had that. I always wished I had like that. You know, some guys have that kind of niche and like, well, he's so funky that, you know, people don't know what to do with him. Right. I was very predictable. But so 44 is the freshman. Now we are 50.
We have nobody at 50.
Nobody at 50. Then we go to 57.
Yes, now it'll start almost mimicking college weight. So 57 is Robert Park, who is a brand new first-year wrestler.
Son of a former Chieftain Bellefonte, or West Liberty wrestler. It's hard. I got to turn that off. Sam Park was a year older than me. I wrestled with Sam. I talked to him over the summer at swim meets for little ones. That he said his boy was going to get into it. And he's kind of got the same deal.
Bert is one of we call him Bert. I don't know how much he appreciates being called Bert, but he gets called Bert. That's his name to me. So. Great kid. He's an incredible kid, incredible young man. He is one of those very athletic. The kid is stronger than he should be at his age.
I guess he's smart.
Very smart.
Yeah.
Very smart. And our 44 is very, very smart too. And I tell them both this. I'm like, you guys are almost too smart to wrestle because wrestling is illogical.
Right.
It's illogical to put yourself through this.
Right.
And so that like kids that are really, really, really bright, they struggle with it because they're like, why am I doing this? Well, that doesn't make sense. That's way harder, which is what you need to be good. But but Bert is he's incredibly coachable. He is respectful, almost to a fault. And he is a hard worker. I call him Tin Man though, because he is built out of 2x4s. He just does not bend and
You want to oil him up a little bit.
I put him with Kyler actually at 44 because Kyler's so quirky and weird that I'm like, please, Kyler, just make him move more. Like, just make him move more. Because, you know, I tell him, I was like, Bert, you need to stretch for like 2 hours every night.
Like he's carrying buckets.
Yes, you just need to. Yes, he is. Actually, you mentioned Andy McGill. Gabe McGill, his son, very similar. very, very similar to that. You know, it's just like rigid. You got to get him to relax and loosen up. But yeah, so he's 157 is a hard weight class. So like he's coming in first year, learning on the fly, and he's got a few wins under his belt, and he's got a great attitude, and he's really great. He's a great personality for our team to have.
Glue guy.
Yes.
I always said if you get a couple wins too, because I had those kind of guys. You're like, I just need them to get 2 or 3 wins because they can hold on to those the whole season. Like, I know I can do it, and when the times are tough, like, oh hey, I won a few weeks ago, so that's nice. 65 is next.
Silas Crable.
Okay,
so, Silas is very tough.
Probably your most. He's the one that's ranked on Burrow. I know. You don't necessarily think Burrow fan is the Bible, but
yes, he is
ranked.
I think he's ranked up there. I don't look at it very often, to be honest.
High teens type thing.
Yeah.
So he's proven that obviously people have taken notice of what he's doing.
Yeah, Silas is another kid that I think the world of that young man.
I'm going to guess he works hard.
Works very hard.
His last name's Crable.
Yeah, they all work pretty hard.
They're all farmers.
They all work pretty hard. Yeah.
I played with Crables, and I never knew any Crables to wrestle, at least back then, but they all played football, and they were all hard workers.
Well, yes. And the thing that I wasn't sure about Silas coming in last year was he's one of those kids because he's strong, he's fast, he's athletic, he works harder than most people, that I was like, I really hope he's coachable. I hope he's flexible, mentally agile, because I have a system, I have a philosophy. I put these kids in it, and then I let them find their ways to become themselves inside of that system, right? And so that's how I've always approached it. Like, we're going to do certain things great. We are going to do these things great. I don't care what your, plan A attack is, your plan B attack is, whatever. I don't care well, to an extent. I don't care what some of these things are, but you're going to hand fight great. You're going to outwork them. You are going to push the pace. You're going to run back to the center. Like, these things are like fundamental hallmarks of my philosophy, right? And I'm not rare in that. Like,
they're controllable.
Correct. And so, like, I was like, Silas is, because he had all those things in middle school, he naturally just beat most of the people he wrestled. So it's like, it's hard to tell a kid that's wrong when it's worked his whole life. But that was what I was afraid of, and that is not what happened. So Silas comes in, I assess these, because we have kind of a still small-ish team. We've got 3 coaches in the room every day for the most part, and we got 12 men out there wrestling, that it's like, we can watch, and I can individually tailor, like, this is your plan A, this is what we're going to work on for you today. Hey, like, I'll write up my practice plans, like, hey, Wyatt, you're going to do this today. Zayden, you're going to do this today. And then you form it into a template of a practice, like, hey, plan A, or, drill A today. For you, it's this. For you, it's this. For you, it's, and we can do that and not waste much time. So Silas comes in. We assess him. I'm like, okay, you need to be doing this, this, and this. Let's work through that, and let's build off that. And he did it. He was coachable. He did everything that was ever asked of him. He applied it as hard as he possibly could, as faithfully as it possibly could. He always listened to everything was said. And, he won 30 matches as a freshman at 150. In our district, it's tough. And won 2 matches at districts, I think.
So state champion's the goal.
State champ. For me, that's the getting Silas to believe that should be the goal for him. That's the trick, because no matter how hard that kid works, I swear. Like,
is he an off-season guy at all?
Yes, he's one of those guys. He'll wrestle at the Iowa camp and do all that.
He understands.
Yeah, he's also a big football kid, so like he plays football and, but yeah, he putting in the work, not a problem for that kid. So like, it's just, finding ways to challenge himself every day, and that's hard in the room too. And that's why like having guys like Slade come in every once in a while, or Jake Griffith come in every once in a while.
Cooper probably wrestles him.
Yeah, Cooper will wrestle with him. I wrestle with him every day. I try to spread the wealth, right? But it also, I weigh like 300 pounds. So, I'm a heavyweight.
But
so
you know how to wrestle small.
I can wrestle small.
Yeah.
And, I will, my thing is like, I will wrestle you. The harder you go, the easier it is going to be for you, right? And so like, if you wrestle like, a lazy bum, like you're gonna get that kind of treatment, but still in their heads, like in their heads, it's hard to overcome the fact that, like, okay, coach has been doing this for a long time. He outweighs me by 2 of me. Like, what am I really? And even like, I took him down. He let me.
Yeah.
He let me. And so like, but like Silas is one of those kids that like everybody knows what he is destined to be except for him, and he's starting to figure it out. And when he really figures it out, when he really buys it, and I've had this conversation with him religiously almost, the world will have to get out of his way, right? And so, but yeah, he has done a great job. He gets banged up. He works through the injuries. Because that's the nature of wrestling.
He's a 65?
Yes.
So we're moving to 74. You don't have a 74.
75. That's his little brother.
So it's 74 is the college weight, right?
74 is college.
Close,
75. That's what I said. We're close to mimicking.
Gotcha.
So 75 is his little brother Tim.
Okay.
He's a freshman.
I've seen that name in there. So does he have a little more experience than the other freshmen? Seems like he's won a few matches.
Yes, I would say Tim is one of those kids where we're still working on him upstairs, right? So we're like, Tim will go out there and be like, what are you doing? And then he'll go out there against a kid that probably on paper is better than him and just wax him. And I'm like, what are you doing?
He didn't read the paper.
I was like, where was that Tim last match? So it's the consistency, consistency is key. And so like we're still figuring Tim out quite a bit, but like, he's very similar to his brother. And I think it's like, hey Tim, you're pretty dang good. You just got to train like it. You got to train hard. You got to believe that you're pretty dang good. And
wrestling needs brothers too.
Yes.
Got it.
Oh yeah. Well, that's why I
get 2 for 1.
Listen. Here's your reward, Tim. The harder you work, you drill hard in practice. I'll get Silas tired and let you wrestle him live. It's like, but you got to find ways. But like, yeah, he's freshman. He's had great tournaments for him, and then he's had tournaments that like didn't go well for him. And it's about which Tim he brings to the match that day, which Tim he brings to the tournament. And that will dictate the Tim you get.
Next weight, 84.
90.
All the way to 90.
Yeah, Sam Bradford.
And Sam Bradford has had a really good beginning of the season.
Yes.
Cut down from 215, right?
I'd say cutting down is generous wording.
I get it. I like that word.
He came into alphas a little heavier than he should have been, and I told him, but Sam's a very successful. He's had a very good year. Spent the first 3 weeks at 215.
Sophomore?
He's a freshman. Freshman, and he's won quite a few matches. He's another one of those kids that like you put him in the weight room, he couldn't lift the stool that he has to move out of the way almost.
Which is a tough start for an upper weight.
But you put him on the mats and he understands leverage
Functional
and he
strength,
applies it well, and he's like, you're like, what in the world?
Does he play football?
He used to. He quit football and wants to focus on wrestling, which is rare. Like that is a
Those
rare.
who do it.
Yeah.
That's what I always say to kids that would tell me that. Like, they say focus. I'm like, what does that mean? Are we going to think about it, or are we going to go to all the things
that's a Sam thing too. So it's like, hey, dude, if you don't want to play football, like we can't waste the fall. It's not happy time, and it's relaxed. Hey, we're going to spend 3 or 4 days in the weight room every week. We're going to get 2 or 3 days on the mats every week. We're going to get some conditioning in. It's going to be an hour to hour and a half, maybe a day. Just come in. We're going to be light. We're going to focus on getting better and preparing for the next year. So Sam's got all the potential in the world. He's got a lot of growing up to do.
District caliber kid this year, you think?
For sure.
And maybe win some matches when he gets there.
I think that of all my kids.
Right.
I truly do, and that's not what I'm saying because I'm, being recorded and on a podcast. Like I truly put my kids. They truly can be successful anywhere they go. It's a matter of applying themselves consistently and believing in it. And
the G was a really good test. Coach Eric Harmon used to tell us that when we went to the G that was if you place there, that essentially that you were you pretty much assured you were a state caliber kid.
Yes.
And if you were close, then you were probably a district caliber kid. And I would guess over the years, having wrestled and coached in the G, it's a pretty good barometer, and it goes up and down a little bit over the years. Graham's still there, right?
Greater Miami Valley, right?
I say the G, I'm sorry.
Yes,
GMBWA.
Graham's there. Graham's there. There's a
team from Georgia, I would guess.
Buford.
Yeah.
Holy God.
Yeah, they're tough.
They're real tough.
Yeah, they are. They
really,
almost
really
beat
tough.
Graham one of the years. They may have beat Graham one of those years.
Yeah.
But it was close. And then Kentucky will send up some good schools.
They have a couple of good. Great Bridge, maybe, I think, is Great Bridge, Kentucky is them.
Ryle,
Ryle.
Simon Kenton. When I was coach, I was on the G board. I call it the G,
I didn't
G
realize Simon
board.
Kenton was Kentucky.
Yeah, that's right across. But I was on that board, so that tournament is near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
I think Gary Wise and Mark Peck. I don't know if you know those guys. Those are Vandalia Butler. Gary was the head coach at Graham many years ago. Now at Beaver Creek. Those dudes are awesome, and they, that tournament. I love that tournament. It frustrates me at times because it could even be better. It's a good tournament, but there's a lot of Southwest schools that head north, and I get it. Like if you're an elite Southwest school, like at times Centerville's been that team there. I don't know if they are right now. I don't follow close enough, but they've had moments where they're like, they got 4 or 5 state placers, so they'll head north over the holidays, and you get it. But we always felt like we wanted to keep, we wanted to make the G as good, if not better, than the Brecksvilles, and realistically, it's not, but it's still really good. And the nice thing about it is, a West Liberty-Salem or Bellefonte when I was coaching there, it wasn't so tough. Like, you said, you probably wouldn't take your guys to Brecksville because that's not ready
yet.
for that.
We're not ready for it yet.
You might get a couple wins if you get the right draw, but you're going to send a lot of kids home 0-2, and you just don't want to do that because you don't get better doing that. But LCC, talking about
LCC is
that.
a
That's
great
another one.
challenge.
Like that to me was always. I think Brady Hyatt, who's a great friend of mine. I don't know if you know Brady. Brady was the head coach at West Lib, and then is now at Bellefonte. Was the head coach at Mechanicsburg before Cameron Doggett. Wrestling. It's like we're constantly.
He's all over the place.
Yeah, well, and it seems like everybody. It's like when you get a wrestling guy, you do it all. But Brady was the head coach when we started. We as in West Liberty-Salem. When West Liberty-Salem started going to LCC, and he always said that's a district preview type tournament.
Yeah.
Like you're going to see cats that you're going to wrestle. And they tend to pull. Maybe they don't anymore. I was always surprised. Southwest would pull those Northwest schools down in D3. Like you'd catch a Lima school, and to me that didn't really seem like Southwest, but the numbers, that's how they did it.
Are you at LCC, you mean?
I'm saying at your district, Troy. It felt like Troy, and back in those days, they would get a little north, and some of
Delphos, St. John's?
Delphos. I mean, that's pretty far north. It's northwest, but
Yeah, well, that's like I don't care who we wrestle against at sectional district state. It doesn't matter. Like I think 2 or 3 years ago, I had 6 kids on my team. We got 4th at sectionals as a team with 6 kids. The 3 teams ahead of us were 1st, 4th, and 9th at state.
right.
On the state board.
Yeah,
I'm
you
like,
get
so I mean, I don't care
Legacy
who we.
Christians
I don't care
and-
who. Yeah, it was Legacy, Miami East, and Versailles were all in our sectionals, and so I'm like, I don't care who we wrestle against. But you're getting to this point now where it's like, and I'll say the last couple of years that Northwest district is really tough too. But like Jacob Griffith, Ben's son, like there was kids at the state tournament he beat. He did not even place at districts, and he beat the state qualifiers. Like, and so like I mean, and now with Graham dropping down to D3, coming into Troy, it's like some of these schools like Delphos St. John's, Allen East, and like all these really good programs. Like, it's almost like are we getting the right group of kids at the state tournament? You know what I mean?
That's what the North used to say to us.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
Absolutely.
When I was a
And
kid,
it ebbs and flows.
Yeah. Well, and I would actually maybe argue for many years it was just all Northern. And when I was in high school, my junior year, I placed 4th at the Xenia district, and I didn't go to the state tournament. I was state alternate. We took the top 3 out of Xenia. We took the top 5 out of Fostoria.
Yeah.
And that still burns
That
me
was
to this day.
Ben, that happened to Ben as well. Griffith,
did,
I think he got 3rd or something, or like, but that was when.
It happened to Gabe, his brother. Ben was a
Yes.
state qualifier as a senior. Gabe, as a junior, was the same as me, was 4th at the district tournament, and you didn't go to state and Fostoria. Now, in fairness, the North was a lot tougher. Like Xenia had a history, and this is totally different from the tournament you're coaching in. When I was in school, I hate to admit it, we would, as Xenia, I was a district champ my senior year and got beat in the first round. I'm not proud of that at all, but it happened, and it happened more than it should have. That doesn't happen now in the Southwest. And I believe, and I'm not the authority on it, but that to me is the Jeff Jordan effect. When Jeff comes to Graham in the mid '90s and he sets up that absolute empire,
Yeah.
like Graham gets really good, and then it starts spreading.
I never actually even thought about that.
We
to be
went
honest.
from there was a lot of dudes. Honestly, I'm very I'm not arrogant at all about what I did, but I'm very prototypical Southwest wrestler. I was good, but not great. I get to the state tournament, and then when it got really talented, I just wasn't prepared for that. I would go to Jordan stuff, but not enough. And now you're seeing almost two generations of kids that have gone and trained with him, and the skill level's so much higher. And Brady Hyatt could tell you all about that. Like Xenia is, and it's no longer. I say Xenia. That's where it was in D3. Troy it's by far the best district in D3, right? I mean, I don't think it's close, especially now that Graham's there.
I think, well, with Graham there, it's not remotely close.
But Legacy Christian, I mean,
yes.
some of those schools, they're putting out elite guys.
The Northwest District has been very tough the last few years. Milan Edison, I think, is up there.
No,
and,
they're tough.
Delta is up there. Like
Delta's always tough.
You're gonna have like that Northwest. Like, I'd put them very. it'd be interesting.
1A,
I'm sure
1B,
you're the
yeah.
stats guy, so
Well,
like you're
not
the
with
stats
wrestling.
guy. So like, but you go through it. Like, it'd be interesting to look at how many state placers out of each district for each.
I don't know if you know who Bucksman is on Yappy, Josh
Oh,
Lowe.
okay.
He does it every year, and he
Okay.
loves to attack Southwest Ohio. Not so much in D3, but he loves to attack
Yeah.
D2. And he's
Central
driving me
Ohio
crazy.
got that treatment when I was in school.
No doubt.
And then my junior year, like, I mean, at least at heavyweight we didn't. So the four state qualifiers.
You wrestled a Westerville kid in the finals, right?
Yeah, so the four state qualifiers for Central were first, second, fifth, sixth at states.
Brendan Barlow, is that who you
Yeah,
wrestled?
he wrestled at Kent State
Yeah,
too. Yeah,
I remember
Really good
him.
guy,
He was
good guy.
maybe a multi-state champ, maybe a two-timer.
No, he got second his senior year.
Okay.
He lost to the guy that I lost to in the semis from Moeller, who I beat in the first round the year before.
What was his name?
Becker. He played
I remember
football
that.
at Cincinnati.
Yeah, no, I remember that name.
And a good friend of mine is the head coach at Moeller now. He wrestled with me at OU. Jermaine Lindsay. He was an all.
Oh, yeah, no, I know exactly who that is.
Yeah, so and he runs. He's in charge of Moeller now. He's the head coach at Moeller.
Yeah.
But like, so we would always talk about that too. But there was that heavyweight era was a good era in Central Ohio. Like when I was in high school, and then Antonio Jeremiah out of Hilliard Darby, who was literally a building in wrestling shoes. Played defensive tackle for Michigan State. He was a really good football player. Like, there was a lot of tough. But Central District got that same treatment where it's like, come on, you guys aren't Cleveland, And even, in Cincinnati, I think got that treatment. But I'm like, yeah, okay, we're not Cleveland, but we're here.
And I think that's a thing of the past. And certainly still, the North is still really good at wrestling, but it is spread out.
All the Ohio State coaches' kids now wrestle in Columbus, or they, recently in the past years, like Columbus, in my opinion, has gotten very, very tough.
Population boom. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's as simple as that. 40
Yeah.
years ago, everybody lived in Cleveland. Now everybody lives in Central Ohio. But back to your lineup, and I'll get you out of here.
Oh, sure.
So above Bradford, 215. Are you filling that?
Yeah,
now
we
that
have
he's dropped out?
215. Maverick Reams is a sophomore. Another one of those kids that got a lot of potential. He's like a lot of big kids. He's afraid to be big. I'm like, bro, you're a big dude, and you got a lot of talent, but you just gotta, he walks around just kind of like the posture and just like, it's just like, dude, puff your chest out a little bit. Go out there, train hard, get the confidence up so you can wrestle hard, you can apply it hard, And so, but great kid, another one of those kids that we like having him in the room. He's a level personality that, but yeah, so he's at 215.
I got to think that, having you as a head coach, a high quality, highly credentialed heavyweight has to really be a good thing for those guys because you're a big dude and they can, look up to you and say, I want to kind of emulate, how you walk around a little bit.
Yeah, I hope that's how they feel. I don't know that that's how they feel. I'm a personality, right? So like, in the room, I bring a level of intensity that you know, I don't want to speak for West Liberty because West Liberty's got wonderful people. It's what I love about it. But, you know, told this to Andy McGill, and you know, this my
He'll
words.
agree with you.
My words is that West Liberty is too great of a place to grow up.
Yeah.
They don't struggle for much.
Snow globe.
Yeah, so like it's like putting them in a box where it's like, I'm gonna be the worst 2 hours of your day. I hope you appreciate me for it. You know, but like, you know, it's.
Well, I'm sure Andy can appreciate that.
Andy and I mean, I like to, like I told you before, Andy is one of the few people ever in my life that I'm just like really, really thankful to have him as a friend. And, you know, I tell my wife all the time, Andy McGill makes me not feel like the crazy person in West Liberty. He makes me feel like there's somebody else like me, at least a little bit. You know, and I hope he's not mad at me for saying that. No. So I hope he's not.
No, he's a great dude, and I was fortunate to grow up with him and wrestle and play football. And he was a good influence on me because I certainly, he was a lot more mature than I was in those days. You know, Andy was mature beyond his years, even when we were in school, and he was a great leader and you know, fantastic football player and a fantastic wrestler in a time where we were coming out of the Derlin era, and we were good. I mean, a lot of us were good, but Andy was really good, and you know, that was nice to have him around. Like, you know, you'd go, and it's something about going into a tournament when you've got the heavyweight too. So, like, not only is he the best wrestler in the tournament, he's also the biggest dude. And it's like there's a little bit of a puff your chest up, like we're here, and you know, we got Andy McGill here too. So, you know, we had some, and Graham recruited the heck out of him. You know, I think we're past the statute of limitations for them to get suspended. They absolutely begged him to come over and wrestle for them because they were fighting for a state title. In those, that was before it was just a given that they would win it.
Yeah.
They didn't win it. They won it, I believe, my senior year.
99 might have been their first year they won it.
I feel like they won. Well, they won it
maybe?
with the Jordans in '83.
Well, sure.
And I think '98, which was my senior year. But Andy's senior year was '97. I don't believe they won it, and I believe, and I could be wrong with that, Andy would have put them over the top. They didn't have a heavyweight. You know, Graham really struggled in those days. They had Avery Zirkle, who was I think it was 215 back then, or 89. But they didn't have a heavy, and there was times where they just forfeited, or if they did, it was a guy that, you know, wasn't a guy. So they
back
really
up 215 and wrestled up,
and they wanted Andy bad, and Andy was tempted. I actually got an article that proves he was tempted because he mentions it in there. He's like, yeah, you know, it would have been, you know, it was tempting to go wrestle at a place that wrestling's like football everywhere else.
get you a ring, you know.
Absolutely, and you know, he was just a loyal West Liberty guy. So. No heavy though. We are
No heavy. When we were juggling back and forth on weight classes, we did skip 132 though. We have Lance Saylor is at 132.
Yeah, okay.
And he's a sophomore as well. Who's
Lance's uncle is a guy named Junior Saylor who wrestled for West Liberty-Salem. He transferred from Urbana. He's a couple years younger than me. Good wrestler. You know, Junior was a solid district, almost state. Lost to a dude. I want to say he lost to a dude named Evan Garver when he was at Urbana from Graham. It was really close, and Garver was a state qualifier. Junior was a tough dude. Lance is a freshman, sophomore.
Sophomore, yeah. He's grown a lot over the last couple of years. So like I told you, I have a very particular style. It's a bare bones style. Like, I'm not a flashy wrestler. Like, I never have been. You know, and that's very different from, in my perception, very different from the Urbana system that he came from. It's very different from what I.
So he transferred from Urbana as well.
He transferred. Well, I don't know. I know he lives in Urbana. I know he's open enrolled to West Lib. I don't remember. I know he went to Urbana schools. I don't remember what. I don't know what. I think maybe 7th or 8th grade he went to Urbana, but I don't know that for sure. And he came to West Liberty as a freshman. For sure, he was at West Liberty. So I just don't know if that was his first year. But yeah. So he's come a long way, and you know, day by day, week by week, month by month, I think he adapts a little bit more into the system that we try to portray as a team, and he is growing. And some, I'll tell him this too. He's not a patient kid, right? So when he works hard and doesn't see the result, I talked about this with him today. When he works hard and doesn't see the results right away, he gets impatient and then goes back to, so it's like we got to keep the patience and the discipline with him, and really the sky's the limit with him. So, and he's great to have on the team. He's, there's been a lot of growth there, for sure.
Well, I anybody else that I don't want to overlook somebody because I know you're the one that has to pay for it if you do.
Oh, God.
I don't know if they're listening or not.
Really stressful.
Yeah,
honestly.
I get it.
You let somebody go, but yeah, I mean, and I would encourage you to have Ben on here one day too, when you have to. But I won't talk too much on the girls because it's kind of. We share everything. Like he's a boys coach, I'm a girls coach. Like we try to do everything like a team. But he has really taken that girls program under his wing, and I don't want to leave the girls out. We've got in the last 3 years since his daughter Chloe came into high school. We've doubled our girls' numbers every year. Went from 1 to 2 to 4. So we're up to 4 girls, and
8 would be great.
Yeah, it would be wonderful.
Yeah.
It's then the school would have to give me a bigger wrestling room.
We back in the day, our wrestling room was the entire length of your balcony.
Yeah.
When I was in school.
That's what it's supposed to go back to once the field house gets
right. And then the
done,
weight equipment came in, and now you're just in that small.
It's tight.
That's the way it was, years ago when I was subbing there. But yeah,
we're thankful to have the space, but it is getting to the point. I told him, listen. If there's one thing I know how to do outside of wrestling, I know how to encourage or entice kids to come in and try something. The team will grow. We will outgrow this space, and kids are going to get hurt. So we're going to have to get bigger. But yeah. So we're hopeful. I'm really hopeful for a lot of reasons. I'm hopeful that field house gets built, but to have that whole mezzanine and. That means our middle school could train on one end of the room.
That's how we did it.
And so it's hey, the middle school don't have to wrestle till 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah, it's tough.
And so that's we're hopeful for that, and we got big plans. And I'll just I'll say that
we got a little buzzer beater there. Minnesota just knocked off Michigan. Too bad for Go Blue in overtime. So.
But yeah, But yeah, I'll just say, nobody else that I forgot. I'm hoping that if we do this again next year, I'm hoping that it takes a lot longer to go through our team.
Well, I mean, I am genuinely excited. I'm mad that I didn't even realize, I don't pay a ton. I didn't pay a ton of attention to. I was familiar that Gabe McGill when he was doing pretty well, and it was kind of easy to follow a little bit. But I had not dug into. I started. I talked to Alan Griffith about you, and he was like, well, he was a really good wrestler, and I was like, well, let me look it up. Oh wow, okay, yeah, this is real. So, man, I as a alumni, not that matters, but I did wrestle for that program, and it's certainly a big part of where I got to, wherever I did get to in life. I got a good wife and a good family, so
Great. I
always tell our kids, I'm like, at the end of the day, that's what you're striving for, and West Liberty Wrestling certainly was a big part of that. So glad to see you got a young team that, I can't imagine that you're not going to be pretty dang good in a couple years.
And we've got no 8th graders, and we've got 7 7th graders and they're all pretty good. And so, in our youth club, we've got a group of 6th and 5th graders we've got 4 or 5 really tough kids every year coming in if they stick with it. And that's when you come into a new place, you have to build ground up. You have to do what you can with those high school kids when you come in, middle school kids when you come in, but you have to build from the ground up and then get those kids coming in steady flow. Consistency is king, right? So every year you get those kids coming in, and we're really excited. You said you hadn't been paying too close attention. Well, in recent years, it'd be fair to say that maybe there wasn't as many reasons to pay that close attention, and we're really proud. I'm very proud of the community we've built, the team we've built, the coaching staff we've built, the youth program that has been built long before I got here, and that how it feeds into the program. And we're really excited to be a part of it. We're really really proud of the fact that the amount of notice that people have to if West Liberty goes to a tournament, we think that's a significant stat line for people to have to know, and we're excited to really make sure people know it, in the future. So But yeah, I love being there. I love the kids. I love the environment, and we're really excited for the future.
Well, that's awesome. I appreciate you, Coach. Good to have
Appreciate
you.
you. Thank you.
Have a safe trip back. I'll be watching. Certainly, good luck, as you go to LCC, and then really it's tournament time before you know it. A few more weeks, you'll be
we're
at that
close.
sectional, and hopefully get a bunch of districts and get a few on the state.
That's
what it's all about.
We got to get over the hump. We haven't gotten there yet. We still got to get over the hump in my time there. So I'll be sure to get you some West Liberty-Salem wrestling gear, but
Nice.
You have to wear it at Bell Fountain
Hey, they
in wrestling practice.
I don't get. Well, yeah, Pee Wee. We do got a couple more weeks. Hey, they won't hate on that at all. That's the nice thing about Bell Fountain and West Liberty. We don't really compete against each other a whole lot, so no harm, no foul. But Coach Andy Hartshorn. I'm sorry, I've been struggling with that.
That's a tough name, honestly.
It's good to have you on, West Liberty-Salem head wrestling coach. We're going to switch gears here. We have talked for a long time, which I love. Both of us have the gift of gab, so that went on. We're now moving on to our longest first segment. Coach Skylar Mifsud is waiting in the wings. He is our. We're going to switch gears and we're going to talk NFL. He is our senior analyst. We throw that term around fairly loosely around here. We give a lot of senior analyst titles around. And Brian Harmon, we're going to talk. We have some. Have we posted the standings, Coach Hoy?
They're all the way at the top.
So, am I in first? I don't believe I am.
No, I am.
Skylar's in first. We are playing, remember, for a $25 gift card to the Craft Emporium. Have we gotten any picks posted since?
Yes.
Coach Hartshorn and I have talked for over an hour. Hopefully somebody's made a pick or two.
Yeah, we have 4 in right now.
All right, well, hey, if they don't get their picks in during the podcast, they are eliminated. So we are moving on to, we got 4 games this week, the divisional round. The first 3 are all kind of heavy fave type situations. And the last one's kind of the marquee game Sunday night. Coach Mifsud, Brian Harmon, we'll get right into it. We won't keep you long here. It looks like the Cavs are getting absolutely blown out tonight by the Oklahoma City Thunder. It looks like the Thunder are going to score 200 points.
I think Donovan Mitchell's done for the night.
Oh, good. So all of you that bet Donnie Mitchell on your props.
He finished with 8.
Oh, cool. Yep. So if you had the over 7.5 on Donnie, congrats. Houston Texans. So kickoff Saturday. Coach Mifsud, you always know these things.
Yeah, they're
what
the
time?
first game. They are at 4:30, I
4:30
believe.
kickoff. C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans are traveling to the 2-time defending Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs. Texans 8.5-point dogs. Ties for the highest line of the weekend. We'll go right into it. Harmon, C.J. Stroud, shock the world in Arrowhead.
No, Chiefs.
Chiefs by a lot.
I think by more than 8.5.
Not scared of the fact that the Chiefs have had a little bit of a history this year of just close games.
They find a way. And
Flipping a switch.
Yeah, this is their time. This is their time.
I'm taking the Texans. Over under 41.5, so low scoring game. You're getting 8.5 points. Texans defense looked pretty good last week. Stroud played better than he had played. We talked last week about how he hasn't had a very good season, and he was able to get it done last week against a good Chargers defense. The Chiefs have a really good defense too, and they haven't played since Christmas Day, so in theory there might be some rust there as well. So I'm taking the Texans to cover 8.5.
I am on the Texans as well. I don't think it's a money line risk for the Texans as far as the upset goes, but it just feels like a fat line. I'm kind of on board of KC. I've said all along you don't three-peat. I just base that off in my lifetime and actually everybody's lifetime,
Yeah,
right?
no one's
So
not.
anybody's lifetime, nobody's three-peated. I'm going to just predict that happens again, and I think it's a close game where Kansas City, I feel like I sense this game being one of those games that everybody gets annoyed at Kansas City, where everyone's complaining, saying, oh, they did it again, and the
mean
refs.
Every game this season?
Yeah, exactly. So, everyone is like, oh, they rigged it so that Kansas City could win. That's how I see it playing out. The night game is Commanders at Lions. Same exact line. Commanders 8.5-point dogs heading into what feels like everybody's favorite team now. I think we're all Detroit Lions fans. Maybe not. Damon Christen is absolutely a Lions fan. Longtime fan or newly acquired? Newly acquired. Everybody loves Dan Campbell. Everybody loves Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs.
Jim Clement.
Jim Clement is a diehard, longtime Lions fan, long-suffering
Yes.
Lions fan.
Yeah.
Is this the day that the Commanders upset the Lions?
No. No, this is Lions, and I'm running Lions all the way through, and it doesn't stop tomorrow.
You don't ever bet a streak to stop. I've heard you say that.
Yeah, it's part of the better's credo.
Very wise. Coach Smithson.
I'm going to go with the Lions as well. I think Jaden Daniels, he's had up and downs through the season. This feels like a game that is going to possibly be a down. Lions just got David Montgomery back, so that'll help Gibbs stay fresh late in the game.
Maybe not 4 touchdowns this time.
Yeah, maybe not
Just
4,
3.
only 3 maybe. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. The over-under is 55.5 or 56.5, so they're expecting the Commanders to score points. But we've seen the Commanders go silent on offense this year at times, and you can't go silent against the Lions.
I love Jaden Daniels. I rode Jaden Daniels to a fantasy title. So did Harmon
Congratulations.
in 2 different leagues. I feel like Jaden Daniels lays an absolute egg. You mentioned the up and down. I think he has multiple turnovers. I think that this is the moment where, and I love Jaden Daniels. I think
It
he's super
happens to
talented.
rookies, though.
I think this is. I thought he was gonna. I picked the Commanders last week. I was right. Money line that. That was good to me. I think that this is the game where we say, he's a rookie quarterback, and he's playing the best team in the NFL on the road in Ford Field, which you know is my favorite place to watch a football game. You know I like domes.
Oh, yeah.
I like the comfort of Ford Field. I think the Lions
The handicap section.
blow them out. I have never sat there, but I have met people that have. I think the Lions win by 3 touchdowns, and I don't even think it's close. And I think Commanders turn the ball over multiple times. We go to Sunday. Get a little closer here. The Los Angeles Rams at Dow McDonald's Philadelphia Eagles. 6.5-point dogs. Los Angeles Rams. Sean McVay, Harmon. I think you're taking the Rams.
That one does feel a little heavy to me, and I think
You don't like the Eagles. You've
Well,
never
that's-
liked them.
I love Down McDonald.
Right. Okay.
But Sean McVay, I think he's built for moments like this. I'm not saying they win. I don't know that I'm a money line guy on the Rams, but I do think this is probably a closer game than that.
I'm taking the Eagles. I think they win by at least 7. I think it's a very bad situational spot here for the Rams. Short week, going across the country. They played the last game at night, and they got to travel across the country.
Not all the way across. They were in Glendale.
Fair. The Rams played so well against the Vikings because they had 9 sacks, and they made Sam Darnold incredibly uncomfortable.
Be Sam Darnold.
Yes. Philly has the best offensive line in the league. They're going to handle that pressure a lot better than the Vikings did. The Vikings were dead going into that game already, so I'm going to take the Eagles.
I want to keep this simple. I think the Eagles are broken. I think that they are in the beginning stages of a reboot. I think that Saquon Barkley has been awesome, but I think outside of that, I think Nick Sirianni has some weirdo stuff going on. I think A.J. Brown has totally morphed into a weirdo. The moment I saw him reading a book on the sidelines, I knew I was taking whoever they played in the next round. I think that Sean McVay and the Los Angeles Rams know how to play playoff football. I think they're going to continue to ignore Cooper Kupp, and somehow that's going to work. And everybody's going to be really upset about that. But I actually like the Rams money line. That's where I'm going to be. I'm going to take the 6.5. That's the easy one, and I will take an upset on the road.
I want to go on record and say it's the first time I've ever heard of a 14-3 team being said that it's the start of a rebuild.
Yeah, I'm ahead of schedule on it.
Always ahead of schedule.
14-3, and they're about to start a
Talking
rebuild.
about guys retiring for years before they do it.
How many 14-3 teams have you known that everyone was ready to fire the head coach?
Yeah.
Because I've heard Sirianni out the door multiple times.
No, Philly
Star
fans.
receiver says that the star quarterback
Yes.
sucks.
Philly fans are crazy.
Well, yeah, of course.
That's the best part of this franchise.
Yeah, I'm on their side. I want to see change in Philly. So I'm on record, obviously. Rams plus 6.5. Final game Sunday night. We don't have to get up Monday morning, so that's the great news. Lots of people will be being able to stay up late and enjoy that game. Martin Luther King Day on Monday. Baltimore Ravens, the marquee game of the weekend, 1.5 point road faves at the Buffalo Bills. Brian Harmon.
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. I listened at nauseum today of them arguing back and forth whether weather's going to play a difference or not. I don't think weather plays a difference. I just think the Bills play a difference in this game, and I like the fighting Vasilewskis of the Buffalo Bills.
I'm going to be opposite, I think, of Harmon on every pick.
Every
Well,
single
except for
pick.
the Lions.
This is how I can.
You're a contrarian.
Well,
Natural.
yeah. 5-1 for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm taking the Ravens. I think the weather might play a part. It might be a little snowy, cold for sure. Ravens defense has been the best or a top 3 since they moved Kyle Hamilton back to a free safety. And I think at the end of the day, we're going to look back and say the Bills didn't have any weapons other than James Cook and Josh Allen to count on when it mattered. You can't win big games counting on a rookie in Keon Coleman or Curtis Samuel, who's been around the league for a while now in different places. Give me Lamar Jackson and give me Derrick Henry to feed the king when you need it most. Now Zay Flowers might be out again, but they were okay without him last week.
Sign DeAndre Johnson.
Well, I believe that was just he can't play for them this season because he was already on their team and cut, so on and so forth. That was just so nobody else in the league could pick him up. Yes.
I literally changed my pick as you were talking. I am super on the fence about this. I've been on record as saying I thought the Bills would play the Lions in the Super Bowl, but I'm wishy-washy enough that I do agree that I think the Bills are inherently flawed as a team. I think they are a one-man gang, and I think that the Ravens are just better. And I really hate to take the Ravens on the road. I don't want to do it, but I am going to do it, and which ensures that Buffalo will win. So good news, Harmon.
Congratulations.
My switching is going to lead Josh Allen and rookie Keon Coleman to victory. So I will go Ravens, but yeah, it's going to be – I have a bad feeling, though, it's going to be a boring game. I just feel like every time we get a game like this, then it's going to be – it's going to snow a little bit, it's going to be cold, and then the game's going to be like 16-13.
The Lions-Vikings game, Week 18, game of the year, propped up all week, and then low-scoring dogfight game, nasty game, yeah.
But at the end of the day, and that's kind of why I switched to the Ravens, if that's what's happening, give me Lamar and King Henry over Josh Allen and James Cook. I guess it's as simple as that. So hopefully we get a few more people jump on there with their picks, or I guess we'll drink. We'll have all the $25 to ourselves. Quickly, let's talk Ohio State, Notre Dame. I mean, I know that's tough to talk quickly. Monday night, predicting record cold temperatures. A lot of people are already talking. Not going to be in school on Tuesday. Most places are going to be closed. That's what I'm hearing.
Businesses,
I'm hearing everything.
corporations. Yeah.
TikTok told me everything. So nothing will be open. Craft Emporium will still run on time. That's one thing we can count on, right, on Tuesday.
Tuesday we'll be here.
Right. No matter how cold it gets.
The beer will be
The colder, the better.
Damn right.
You will be here, but there's a lot of rumors that Monday night will be a night that people can really unwind and watch the Ohio State University as an 8.5-point favorite against the Fighting Irish and Notre Dame. All three diehard Buckeyes sitting at this table. I don't think I even have to ask. Now, I guess the points are big enough that are we at all leaning towards Notre Dame plus 8.5? Where's the public money, Skylar?
Well, I think the line moving shows that it's going on Notre Dame. The line's come down like a point and a half since it opened.
Somebody told you
It
that last week.
it touched 10, like I said, and then I agreed with you. It'd come down. I feel like at 8. They're 8 right now. I think they're down to 8 now.
It was 8.5 as of an hour and a half ago.
Okay, so
It was
it
a
might
long
have.
podcast, so it may have moved.
Yeah. I don't know. Ohio State's playing so well right now that I feel like they win by 10. I feel like that's the number. You know, you're not going to win by 9 typically. So I think they can get to 10. They're playing so well defensively. They got to stop Riley Leonard. It's as simple as that. They're a one-man show. You stop the run game, you can handle Notre Dame. So, and offensively, Ohio State's been. They didn't look as good as they did against Oregon and Tennessee last week, but it was hard to look as good as they did those 2 weeks.
Harmon, you have a long history of being nervous for Ohio State football games.
Absolutely.
A lot of people have talked about that. It's been well documented.
It is.
How nervous are you?
Not as nervous as I can get. I think Notre Dame's path to victory is really narrow. I think Notre Dame has to be a really, really good version of who they are, right? Defensively, they have to be disruptive. They have to get Ohio State behind the sticks. They have to get turnovers. They have to do those things. And then they have to slow this game down and make it and limit the possessions. They also, I think, that's still not quite enough. I still think they need Ryan Day to get really tight in games like this, where he is known to do. They need both of those things to happen. I'm hoping that now they showed a little bit of that to Texas. They weren't quite as wide open in with the motion and the misdirection and all that stuff against Texas. So he did tighten up a little bit, but this is his moment to change everything about his career, and I think Ohio State covers.
Yeah, I just don't feel like they've come this far to stop now. I feel I'm also historically very nervous. I feel relatively confident that this Ohio State team is better and is going to finish this. So, it's exciting. I'm probably more excited than nervous, which is somewhat rare. Usually I'm like 80% nervous, 20% excited, and I think it's more like 65% excited, 35% nervous. So I'm excited. Just, the one thing I always say is that when Ohio State is going good and there's these big games, which there's been a bunch of them, it's just something nice to look forward to. And, we're going to gather together for the fourth straight week.
Yeah.
That's the great thing. And for better or worse, we get a night where everybody gets to get together, probably do some food, and
You don't have to work the next day.
no, they said what they're saying is everything's shut down on Tuesday. That's what I'm hearing. That's what my people are saying. I follow that stuff on TikTok, and that's all I'm hearing. So, exciting time. Root for minus 20 wind chill. That's what I'm told. But we did end up talking a long time tonight, and I thought it was some good stuff. I appreciated West Liberty-Salem head wrestling coach Andy Hartshorn coming in. You guys were patient. The crowd's not quite as thick as it's been. Hopefully we get into a little better weather. We got a couple still loyal fans in here. The Cavs have made a little run here, but it's still pretty ugly. I would guess Donnie's above 8 now, or did he leave the game? Hasn't played, so he is stuck on 8. Hopefully we're back here next Thursday, and then we're totally through the holidays. I know we're through the holidays, but this college football's kind of felt like holidays extended. And
3 more games of football once we start doing this podcast next week.
we'll talk, next Thursday we'll be previewing AFC, NFC title games. And then, after that it's a week off, I assume, and then the Super Bowl, how that's been for a while. It's crazy. It won't be long. That's what I told my kids today. They were complaining about the cold, and I said, you're probably only a few weeks out to a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Let's hope we get a nice, good cold snap for late Monday night, early Tuesday morning before we let the sun come out, and we think of warmer weather. So thanks to Andy Hartshorn, thanks to Hoyt Buckingham, who's always taking care of us on the controls, Skylar Mifsud, Brian Harmon.